Miami, Florida is considered a paradise among many. There's beautiful beaches, history and culture like you've never seen before, and robust opportunities. But this doesn't mean that life here is perfect. There's one thing that devastates everyone: hurricanes.
The center of the hurricane is located about 40 miles due east of Miami.
No question about it, it is going to happen tonight.
The center will be very close into the Cutler Ridge area, for instance, maybe the Homestead area.
You're watching us. We want you to move to your safe spot.
The car is shaking as if there were 10 people on either fender. These winds are definitely picking up.
We have a long time to go. Absolutely most intense part of the storm right now.
On Saturday morning, I got up, and this is before the internet, of course. I got up and called the National Hurricane Center and said, what's the satellite show? What are the reports from the hurricane hunters? And they said, it's intensifying. I said, okay, this sounds like a threat. So I went into the TV station. We were on at 11 o'clock, and we went on. And after 1 o'clock in the morning, I said, friends, I'm going to go home and go to bed now, and I suggest you do too, because tomorrow is going to be a very big day in the history of our city, and we may not sleep tomorrow night. Through the overnight, got closer and closer and more intense, and ended up, the wind started picking up after 3 o'clock in the morning. They were really going by 4. The eye came over the coast at 5, and by 7:30, it was pretty much over, depending on how far west you were. It had tremendous impact on every aspect of how society responds to storms and gets ready for storms. So because it pointed out every flaw in the systems. After that, FEMA was completely redesigned, as was the state emergency management system and the emergency management system used in every other state, plus the local systems were all completely redesigned as a result of Andrew. Even with that assistance, for people that are handicapped in any kind of way, a hurricane is even more difficult than it is for able-bodied people, and storms like Hurricane Andrew were a horrendous experience even for people that did not have any disabilities, let alone the people that did.
There were 11 people total, or 10 or 11 people total, and we all ended up packed into the master bathroom. And when they opened the door of the bathroom, that they stepped out and saw the house was gone, then we just decided we had to find somewhere to go or what to do at that point. I ended up getting carried out the bathroom window because there was too much debris in front of the door. When we came out of the house, that I looked around and I could see for blocks other houses that are supposed to be there and aren't there anymore. I could look down the street where before you couldn't, because fences, trees, houses, all that. But I could literally see for probably half a mile easily. None of the trees had leaves on them. They were all stripped. It looked like somebody had just dropped a bomb. All the leaves and trees and branches were gone. Don't even know if I'm describing it the way I saw it. That's how crazy it was.
Hurricanes are ones that we can see happening. We can feel them, they come and they go. But then there are some chronic and more underlying climate hazards as well. And these would be mostly in the form of flooding and of heat. My name is David McMillan. I am an assistant research professor here at the Leonard M. Miller School of Medicine, and I am the Director of Education and Outreach for the Miami Project to Cure Paralysis. The Miami Project to Cure Paralysis is a center of excellence within the Miller School of Medicine. It has been around since 1985, and it was founded by, there's 3 main founders that are attributed. Dr. Barth Green, who's a neurosurgeon, and then Nick and Mark Bonacani. The community here of people with disabilities, and especially mobility impairment, because those type of people are kind of called here. They're faced with this juxtaposition of all of these great reasons to move to South Florida that's kind of opposed and in tension with this very real climate hazard. When there's flooding, it's maybe not that your wheelchair literally can't go through the flooded zones, it's that you're not going to take the risk. You're just not going to do that. And so you're going to keep yourself at home, and you have now been barred from participation.
We don't know if there's a pothole there. We don't know what kind of object is in that water. So wheeling the wheelchair, you can hurt yourself. You can flip out the chair. You can break your axle. You can break your chair. Different things can happen. When it rains and I know my parking lot is gonna flood, I usually cancel my appointments. But if it's an emergency or something like that, then we need assistance to get to places like that.
The two main areas where you're going to find resources, one is going to be with transportation, and the second is going to be with sheltering. And you might have special needs for your transportation if you have a disability, and your county will say that they will have services to help you with that.
They tailor to able-bodied, you know what I'm saying? You know, we can't lay on cots, we get bed sores, skin breakdown, all this stuff like that. So it's something that not just this county, the whole state and United States needs to fix, because I know it's a touchy subject, I know it's a big job, but it can be done,
If you have a special device that you use in order to urinate, and each time you use it, you throw it away for the sake of cleanliness, and you need a new one, you need to have a big supply of those, right? And if you run out of them, they're very meticulously constructed so you don't hurt yourself with them. And so if you run out of them, you can't just find something in the kitchen to replace this thing. And these are the kind of things we're probably not thinking of. We're thinking of the wheelchair, we're thinking of the fact that maybe they can't stand, but what most people aren't thinking of is that there are many special needs beyond just mobility that apply to people who have disabilities that need to be considered in response to any disaster.
Communication is the number one thing. I think someone from the city should somehow go to these rehabs and before hurricanes, talk, what kind of disability you have. We're planning this hurricane season, we want to get ahead. How can we assist you if you have to be evacuated? You know what I'm saying?
Miami-Dade County, I think, is aware that they are in a unique position when it comes to physical disability. And I do think they are aware that they are in a region that has an above average need for services specific to disability, because people do tend to not leave here if they acquire a physical disability, and they tend to try and move here if they acquired it somewhere else.
I was living in New York, and then after that I moved to Virginia because that's where my parents was. I went back home to Virginia to recovery and stuff like that. Then I ended up moving to Florida. 2004, I got hit by a drunk driver. I was walking on the sidewalk, me and my best friend, we went to a birthday party, and after the birthday party, we were getting ready to go back home to the train, and we crossed the street, and this drunk driver ran a red light and hit a car, and that car flew into the air and came straight and hit me and pitched me 20 feet and hit my friend and killed him on the spot. That was February 2004. I know what I went through as being paralyzed, losing a friend, and I was literally 2 years of depression. Nobody could get through to me until I decided that there's more to life. Service to others, I'm a firm believer in giving back, you know what I'm saying? Because after a traumatic injury, that person is the whole world has changed. You don't see tomorrow, you just see now. The therapist told me one day, she says, Anson, you will be able to drive, live by yourself, do all this and that. But I thought she was crazy. I told her, there's no way. I couldn't see past that. All I could see is I'm paralyzed. So for me as the president to know that I can assist you in these topics or getting you out of the house to go out to events and just to mingle and see people just like you, can ask questions, can communicate, can understand what you're going through, because we go through the same thing. So for me as the president, it's rewarding for me to see that. And even the veterans that's been out there for years that sometimes we haven't seen them in years, and all of a sudden they show up to the meeting because something's happening in their life, or they just want to come around and mingle. So to me, it's rewarding helping people, service to others.
What we can start with is opening channels of communication in the time leading up to, during, and then after an event. South Florida itself has invited these people to come here. It has set the conditions for them. That increases the responsibility of the county, because so much of what they're doing is so good for disability, and hurricanes are so uniquely bad. And so much of this right now, in terms of the immediate problem, is trust. The people need to know that those things are there for them.
It's really important for us to get everybody ready, not only physically, but family-wise with their plans.
And they need to trust them, and they need to go to them.
Our resources are more valuable, and our communication is more strong if we work together.
I am very confident that a town hall would be attended by the people in the disability community that are affected by these hurricanes. And especially given the absence of something like this, it would be a marker. It would be something that perked everyone's ears up and that got their attention and that they referenced in the future. Even if things don't change, people are still talking about how you went out of your way to gather and to put everyone in the same room and to listen.
And that's one thing that we can use science for, is to take those people's experiences and move them from this kind of ether of lived experience into a tangible evidence base that we call data. And that's one of the roles that we play here. And we're actively doing that with hurricane preparedness and response in our local disability community.
The Miami Project to Cure Paralysis continues to do the work to find a cure. For anyone interested in learning more about the disability services offered in Miami, Florida, visit miamidade.gov and research these departments here, finding the one that best fits your needs.